George.
He's
Yeah, I'm gonna let George do the
overwhelmed.
pledge, too.
Oh, yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, this is the park commission. I don't, let me put this away.
Tom's ready when you are. He's giving the thumbs up.
No, he said he was not going to come.
Who?
Dave Burns.
No, he's doing taxes tonight.
Apparently, he said that twice a year, it's understood that twice a year can be a meeting, and this was going to be one of his meetings.
Do this in yellow so I can keep track. Okay. Welcome to the Rye Town Council meeting of March 15th, 2016. It is the Ides of March, and I hope everybody survives the evening. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Senator Latimer, would you lead us, please?
Thank you, Mr. Supervisor. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Heavenly Father, bless this assemblage. Grant us the wisdom to make our every decision fair-minded and in the best interest for all its residents. Thank you.
Thank you. Roll call, please.
Jackson. Nardi.
Present.
Baxter.
Here.
Villanova.
Here?
Zuckerman.
I'm here, too. And Lindsay had called me. Her grandmother is ill, and she's on a plane visiting her right now. I hope that she is okay. We have present tonight, as you noticed from the pledge, our State Senator George Latimer. And I think George has some few words that he would like to say to us.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Supervisor, members of the council. I appreciate the addition to your schedule. It so happens that I was able to come back down from Albany tonight, and knowing that you had the meeting, although I didn't want to add to your extended time since the other meeting lasted longer, I just want to give you a quick update on where we are in the state budget process. Right now, we are heading toward the March 31st adoption of the state budget, which is the end of the fiscal year. It has to be in place by March 31st for the start of the fiscal year, April 1st. Budget has been on time in the state the last 5 years. It had a history of being late for many, many years, but over the last, say, roughly 10 years, it's been close to being on time, which is helpful in terms of budgeting, more so for villages and school districts necessarily than the town, since you operate on a fiscal year, calendar year. But nonetheless, on local government issues, we're working on trying, in a bipartisan way, I might add, to try to see if we can add some additional resources. Both the Assembly and the Senate passed one House versions of the budget in the last day, yesterday. And the Senate majority, Republican majority, the Assembly majority, Democratic majority are not quite in sync. So beginning tomorrow, there'll be a series of budget meetings, joint budget meetings with representatives of majority and minority in both houses to try to negotiate out the differences and deal with the governor on the final adopted budget. For local government purposes, the major things we are fighting for, and not everybody's on the same page, but we're trying to get there, is an increase in direct aid to municipalities. AIM is the acronym for the program. I'm not familiar with what Rye Town may get directly from the AIM program. If we can secure a few percentage points more in aid, it'll be of some help. I don't overplay what it could be, but the bottom line is that it would have some benefit to you. We have also tried to come in with an additional amount for CHIPS funding, highway improvement program funding. Obviously, that applies to communities based on their ownership of the roads, and the town ownership of roads and bridges obviously is something that's a little bit different since you have villages underneath your jurisdictions. We're also making the effort again to repeal the MTA payroll tax as relates to municipal governments. All of these things are works in progress. Yesterday, the Senate majority, the Republican majority, had a budget bill on it, which I did vote for across party lines to do that because I'm hopeful that we'll find a way to negotiate some of these things out. And then, of course, we have to deal with the governor, and we'll express hope that these things will work out the way we'd like. There may be some other very specific issues at hand that I'm not sure quite how it'll work out. You've seen the big debate about the $15 minimum wage. We're not assured that that's going to be in the budget or not yet. It may be an issue that's dealt with after the budget is adopted, so that could be kicked out of negotiation, or it might be adopted. It might be adopted at another target number than that. Whatever impact that might have on the town's labor costs would be something to discuss and calculate. And then in addition to that, there is a proposal by the executive to change the way the STAR program is structured for new entrants to STAR, to make it an income tax credit rather than an upfront reduction in the amount that you are billed your school taxes. It creates a cash flow issue from when you'd get your school taxes to when you would file your income tax forms. And I don't know what logistical problems it might pose to the town in the way you collect taxes. So that's yet to be determined. The Senate and the Assembly have both rejected the governor's plans to change the program, and we'll see how that negotiates. And so what I would expect would happen is once the budget is done in the next 2 weeks, Assemblyman Otis and I will either come back and visit or meet informally in the offices, since we're right across the hall from each other, and we'll give you an update on it, and then you can determine what the impacts are directly to the town. I represent a number of communities of all different sizes and shapes, and the level of impacts differ depending on the communities, but the basic experience that I've had, because I've served on a local board like yours, is that the state needs to be a better partner to local governments. I don't think we have been a good partner to local governments, but hopefully through this budget process we'll make some improvements. So that's at 100 miles an hour. A quick update. I'm happy, Mr. Supervisor, to take any questions if you'd like, or you can pull the hook. It's completely whatever you think is best.
Oh, we always like to hear you speak, George.
Kind.
I have a question. The Municipal Officials Association submitted some suggestions in a package, as did the County Board of Legislators. One of the things that I'm interested in as supervisor is the proposal that municipal officials submitted to extend the time that a municipality may issue a ban. As you know, it currently, when the ban extends 5 years, you then have to issue a serial bond, which in many cases carries a far higher interest rate than the bond anticipation note does. Is there any possibility of that going forward? I know that the town of Rye has a couple of bans outstanding now that we may have to convert shortly.
Right. That particular issue, and there are some other things in both the county legislative package and in the municipal officials package, which don't relate directly to the budget. And in most cases, what happens up there is once the budget is closed at the end of March, we then look at the general governmental issues, and with the target date of the end of June. It's ironic, you know, your council, Mr. Noto, and I have had past experience both municipally and at the county legislature, and seeing the process from the other side. There is no way to describe the logic of it. There's no reason not to be discussing these issues simultaneous to the budget, but in the manner that it's operated, I don't expect that we would look at it substantively until the beginning of April. But I'll try to be mindful of that and give a report back as well. And in fact, if you want us to look at all of those different proposals from both the municipal officials and the county board,
Sure.
We're happy to look at them and give you, a sense of the progress on it. And one thing you have done in the past as a town board, and I certainly encourage it, when you feel strongly on any of these issues, feel free, either by resolution or even by letter, to communicate with both Steve and myself, identify the bill that you support. We can help you find the number. It's not hard to find, but we can help you find it. And if you want to go on record and support, by all means do that. That's a helpful thing to do. It puts some force behind it. And I encourage any of the municipalities to do that, particularly to show that there is a grassroots support for certain things.
Yeah, I think it's important for us, with the bills that affect us directly, that we should support. Thank you. Anybody else? Tommy?
I just want to thank the senator for coming. Always appreciate the opportunity for you to come here. I know your schedule is busy. And if you can, just put on your radar, we're working with the county. The town of Rye is working with the county, the Village of Rybrook, and the Portchester School District doing flood mitigation, which will be in the rear of the Portchester Middle School. Should have some positive impact on the residents of Avon Circle over there, the condominiums. Called Rybrook condominiums now.
Right.
So if there's any assistance or any support, you and Assemblyman Otis and the legislators can give us, we'd appreciate it.
Do you have, Councilman, a proposal yet that has a dollar attached to what the capital would be?
We have a phase 1 and phase 2, which is being sorted out right now. We're actually going to be discussing that tonight.
Yeah, it's on our agenda as the last item. the flood mitigation study, and Billy has been taking a leadership role in it.
I think we'd be very happy to sit with you in the offices, have you brief us on it. Getting capital money is different now than it used to be. There's very little direct discretion that legislators have, as once was different. But I think for a project like that, it makes sense. It's a multiple jurisdiction project, and those usually get higher ratings whenever we're trying to get capital money, because it
Yeah,
does
th-
involve
this
more
would
than one
involve
community.
3 jurisdictions.
Yeah,
This
that's
would
it.
involve the town of Rye, the village of Rybrook, and the Portchester School District.
Right.
And we will be looking to get county money and federal CDBG monies.
Okay.
And if we can get some state money too, that would be even better.
Sounds good to me. We'll certainly sit, be briefed on it, and then do what we can do to advocate for it.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Thank you,
sir.
Senator.
Thank you for the interruption, and hope you guys have a nice
You
night.
never interrupt us.
Well, you're very kind. Thanks.
Thank
Thank
you.
you.
Okay,
Thank
bye-bye
you.
now.
May we have approval of the minutes of February the 16th? May I have a motion, unless there are changes, corrections, et cetera, may I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
I was not here for the meeting, so I'm happy to second it, but I won't vote.
but I.
You can second it. You can even,
Second, and you
Second.
can vote, by the way.
Yeah,
and you can vote, yes,
Okay.
yes,
so I can if I've reviewed them and.
Yes,
and-
you read
Yes.
them.
Okay.
especially if you've seen them on television. We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Are there any comments from the public? We've apparently chased the public away. Resolutions. The first one is Dean Larkin on his Eagle Scout project that we discussed at our last meeting. May I have a motion? Has everybody read the resolution?
Yes, we had the we had the resolution. We had the presentation from the scout as well last month. I make a motion that we support this resolution.
Second, please.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Aye.
I think on some of these, we can do voice votes. The local government records management grant, I'm not sure that all of the council members are fully aware. I know that we have been discussing this for some time. Our what project, Debbie, what's Greg's title?
Program
Gregor?
administrator, I'm sorry.
Program administrator grants, applier for. Greg Arcaro has been working with us on a records management grant with our clerk, Hope Vespia. The purpose of this grant is to digitize 55 years of payroll records so that we can access them more easily. Hope, just briefly tell the council and the public why this is important and how much time you spend doing this.
Yes, we often get requests from the State Comptroller's Office for anyone who has been employed by the town of Rye, and that, most of the time, it's because they worked at Rye Town Park as lifeguards, or even anyone that worked for the town. And sometimes they get a different job where they could buy back some of those years, or they need to know how many years they, and the hourly rate. It's very, they require so much information.
time-consuming
The
for you.
time consuming, and so we have to go back to, right now, we just got a request going back to 1993 through, up to the period of time. And we're not even sure if this person is employed, but we have to check every year. Sometimes it's someone that was employed at Playland. But for the people that were employed by the town of Rye, we have to put down the times that they work, the hours, the hourly rate, and it's very, very time consuming. And therefore, and we're required to keep 55 years of payroll records. So
So
we
hope-
have the information, so now we're gonna hope to, we're hoping to get this grant so that we could get them digitized and have the name recognition and supply all the information we need quickly.
Thank you, Hope.
I would add
if I may, that they take up a huge amount of storage space. That's quite costly to the town.
So could I just ask a question? Is this a state law, the 55 years?
Yes.
And does that apply to all municipalities?
Yes.
Is it private too, or is it just public? Does it just apply to,
What do you mean private?
well, companies?
No, no, no.
No.
Okay, so it
It's
just
just
applies to
state.
public.
7
years.
years.
Right.
And this is not digitized now, so the idea
No.
is that you go in and you have to physically remove them to turn it
Yes,
over. So
right,
that
right.
this grant would allow the new system to turn it over itself theoretically, so it takes out, makes a lot of sense.
Yeah, and basically, we would have to hire a professional company familiar with scanning and digitizing
Sure.
all of these records. And this is really not something that can be done by interns, for example.
Right.
And that's where the cost would come in. So, there are companies, obviously, that do this, and that's what the grant would cover, the cost of digitizing them. And then, of course, we would have to keep it up all the time, which
Is that an ongoing relationship with that outside company, or is that just a one-time to digitally scan everything initially, and then we would be able to maintain it after that?
I think we would
The-
be able to maintain it.
Yeah, the grant is not
the
for
one-
maintaining. The
Right.
grant is to give us.
To do the legwork ahead of time, and
Yeah.
then
Yeah.
every
I-
year we would be able to do
Right.
that.
Conversion
I
and then-
I think that going forward, I think that we would have to make a decision as to whether we would do it in-house and have our own employees do that, or we bring the company back again, on like a yearly basis, after each year to digitize the previous year's record was, obviously would not cost as much as digitizing 55 years of records. And hopefully, we would know where to find those records since the town moved its offices. So I'm not sure that everybody even knows where those records are, so we have to find them.
Oh, they're all over.
No, the
But-
record, you know what the storage area is, right?
Oh, yes.
Okay, all right.
We have 3 storage areas.
Yeah, yeah, right.
I would say that we now have an electronic payroll, a relationship with a payroll company, Paychex. So more recently, our records are electronic at this point.
May I have a motion and a second for Resolution B?
I make the motion.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Resolution C, Sullivan Data Management. This is a continuation of the contract that we have for Sullivan Data, which is our support system for our computerization. Any questions on that?
No,
Motion and a second, please.
so moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
In-rem property stipulation. Paul, do you want to go over this
Yes,
for us?
thank you Supervisor. I did send an email to the board on this. This is part of our class of 15 in REM. We did have a situation where a village lien holder, so just to explain, in the town of Rye, the villages do not collect their own taxes. The town of Rye collects the village taxes. In the village of Mamaroneck, they collect their own taxes. And they used to have an assessment office, which they abolished a year ago. Now we provide the assessment services. Because they are a village, if people don't pay the village tax, they sell the lien to a lien holder. And there are people that do this all the time, and essentially the lien holder takes the lien and then holds it for a while, and then can technically could foreclose on the homeowner. So even if you only owe $5,000 in village taxes, they can force a sale of your house and get back the $5,000, but they can't do what we do, which is to take the equity in the house. So when we do the in-rems with Rhinebeck Properties, we always research the village taxes to see if there are any liens that are sold, because we have to notice all the lien holders, which we did. So Bonita West has 2 liens, and they had filed an answer in the case. And there is some case law recently in the town of Mamaroneck where the town tried to in-rem some property, and they couldn't get past the liens. And the lien holders actually took it to the appellate division and won. So a lien is on par with an in-rem if it's filed before we file the in-rem. So in other words, had they filed the lien after I filed the in-rem, then they couldn't do anything. But they had legitimately filed before and bought them before. So I spoke to the attorney, because it's a fairly insignificant amount of money, and this particular property owes us, I think, well over $100,000. And I haven't heard anything from him, so I'm thinking at this point, our motion's returnable next week, that we may actually get this property. And so I discussed with him the possibility that if we do get the property and we do sell it, that we would pay off the liens, because we would, it's assessed at over $800,000. So there would be money available to pay. I think by the time we got there, it'd be about $20,000. So I need your authorization so I can sign the STIP, which I think I attached to the email. It's not attached here. You did get my email, right?
Yes, we all got your
Yes.
email.
Okay, good. Nobody responded, so I didn't know if you got it or not.
That's not true. I spoke to you
Yeah,
about
you
it.
called me, but usually I get an email back from somebody saying, hey, great idea, or no, it's a bad idea. I didn't get any. It was like complete radio silence. So that was like, odd. Anyway.
Silence means assent.
No, it
was
does
so
not.
well done. that
No, it
nobody had
doesn't
any
in
questions.
government, unfortunately. It's, as you know, Supervisor, from your last meeting. If you don't hear anything, they didn't get it, right? And then,
Is this property occupied, Paul?
yes, it is a, can I describe it? It's actually right next to where my office is. I would say it's probably a legal 3-family, which has about 6 or 7 families living in it. And that, get the picture of what that
Yes.
looks like? Okay, so. Because there's a lot more mailboxes than there are certificates of occupancy.
All right, thank you. Any questions on this motion?
No.
May I have a motion and a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Thank you. Resolution E. This is yours also, Paul, the shared appraisal services for the Westchester Hilton.
Well, actually, it's
What's
Denise.
Is it
It's Denise
Denise's?
Knauer,
Oh.
our crack assessor here, who's pushing us to get these cases moving, so.
Good evening, Honorable Supervisor and Town Board members. This resolution is for shared appraisal for the Westchester Hilton, and the appraisal costs would be shared by the Town of Rye, the Village of Rybrook, and the Portchester School System. And the Portchester Schools and the Village of Rybrook have passed a resolution approving this, and so now it's just up to us to agree to it as well.
And what percentage, is this equally shared?
Yes.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any questions about this resolution?
No.
So I have one question. So it's $10,000 each
Yes.
for each municipal
Yes.
entity?
Yes, it's a very specialized appraisal because it's a hotel,
Mhm.
so it's rather expensive.
Okay,
Yeah.
that was it. I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
None opposed. Resolution F, tax cert on Olivia Street in Portchester.
Now, I'm going to ask that we table that till next month, hopefully. This cert was essentially settled in May of last year, and we're trying to move it along, but since it's been so long, I reached out to the petitioner's attorney just to make sure we were all on the same page with the final numbers, and we have a slight disagreement, so I want to just talk to Jeff Binder to be sure that we've got the right numbers. It's just a minor,
How slight is the
it's
disagreement?
5,000 in the first and second years,
Okay.
so it's pretty minor, but we just want to be sure we're on the same page.
Okay, resolution table. Hope you put that on for next month?
Thank you,
Thank you.
sorry about that.
That's okay. Okay, the Westchester County Airport. Actually, I guess this is mine. As I hope all of you know, there's a proposal before the Board of Legislators of Westchester County to change the terminal use agreement from 240 passengers per half hour to change how that is allocated so that the basically unused time from midnight to 6 a.m. Would be able to be used in the busy time of 6 a.m. to midnight, which would result in potentially a significant expansion of airport use. This is a resolution that's basically in opposition to that for several reasons that I won't go into here. But it's set forth, the resolution is, 6 pages long. It's a major change, and I think one of the most important factors in opposing this is that the environmental resolution before the Board of Legislators is insufficient in that there is no justification provided for the negative declaration it seeks to have issued under seeker. And also that it uses a short form environmental assessment form in an action in a critical environmental area, which is should be a type 1 action, and they have it set forth as an unlisted action. So for all the reasons set forth therein, this resolution expresses opposition to going forward with the procedure. It is a resolution that has been already passed by the Village of Rybrook, and I think it's also scheduled to be passed by the Village of Portchester and other communities in Westchester County. So with that, do we have any comments on this?
No, I think this is a position that the town of Rye has taken in the past, obviously supporting the position that we do not want expansion at the airport. We want to protect our residents, and we want to protect our drinking water and ultimately our communities. So this is in keeping with doing what's best for our communities.
Thank you. Any other comments, Tommy or?
No, and I absolutely agree, and I think the most stringent argument for it is this idea that they have to complete the full form, because how can you possibly determine whether there's a negative impact without completing the long form? And we all know that the potential, just take noise as one example, that would be an impact that would come out of that. So I think it at least would require them to complete that
Right.
before they move forward.
Now, this might sound silly, but what about Greenwich, Connecticut, being that they're right there also? Would them being involved too, would that help?
I'm sure that Greenwich historically has been involved, and I'm sure that we can send this resolution also to the first selectman in the town of Greenwich, as well as our surrounding municipalities, villages, towns, and cities. With that, may I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
Second.
And on this one, let's take a long roll call.
Okay. Jackson, Nardi,
Yes.
Baxter,
Yes.
Villanova,
Yes.
Zuckerman.
Yes. Our next resolution is appointing a town accountant. As you all know, with the passing of our town accountant, Sam Terenzi, we've been operating, I guess you'd say, shorthanded. And Debbie has been doing a tremendous job trying to keep things together, doing the Park Commission budget.
Pleasure.
We have had, we have had accountants come in, and Debbie accountants has actually furnished us with a very wonderful assistant who has helped Debbie tremendously in doing a lot of the vouchering work. But it's not a substitute for a full-time professional accountant that is necessarily, somebody who would do the reports that are necessary for the functioning of the town. Debbie, do you want to talk about the Group Consulting a bit, because Debbie and I both interviewed several accountants, not just one firm, several accountants. And after consideration, we've come to the conclusion, and Debbie was involved even more than I, because she's been on top of them, getting references and checking references, et cetera. And I know that Billy, I was holding off until you got back. I know that Billy had interviewed this group when the RFQ first went out, and had some substantial interviews with them.
I did. As a matter of fact, of the people that responded to the original RFQ, this was the company that I was leaning towards. And the prior supervisor and the prior board obviously did not anticipate that Sam was going to pass away, but rather left a decision of this magnitude to this board. Just happened to have coincided with some changes that happened, unfortunately. So that being said, this company was interviewed, and they were on the top of my list when I spoke with them. And I definitely feel that they can give us the service and the commitment and the time that the town of Rye needs and deserves.
Debbie, you want to comment?
I would say that the proposal that they put together was based on multiple days, spending time in our offices, digging in, understanding the state of our records, exactly what our needs are, what the town's responsibilities are. Their program was put together with considerable knowledge of where we are and what we need. I was, in hiring an accountant, I was looking for an accountant that was going to be able to interface with us seamlessly, that was going to be able to produce monthly reports for not only for filing, but also for the use by management and each one of our senior staff in understanding their own particular budgets on a year-to-year basis, on a year-to-budget basis, that they were going to maintain a dashboard for us so that any given time we would understand where our cash position was. If we were going to be running short and going to have to anticipate a note to get us over a hump, that we were going to see it well in advance. This organization has a remarkable record of doing that. I was out on a site visit to one of their clients, the Carver Center. I was also looking at the auditor's reports and the fact that the town of Rye has a history of rather lengthy auditor's letters. And this is an organization that has a track record of cleaning up and shortening those auditors' letters so that there's no comments whatsoever. And while I received good references from every firm from whom I asked references and they provided, the references for the M Group were stellar, just stellar.
Can I ask when this would take effect?
Immediately.
As soon as possible.
Tomorrow?
Yeah, I mean,
And is it
They
January 1 to December 31st? Is
I'm
that
sorry,
the year that?
I just want to say is they were planning to staff up as of early April. They won't be in
no.
tomorrow, unfortunately.
As soon as we
April
pass
was-
this, I will call them tomorrow and tell them that's not good enough. They have to come in.
So my question is, I mean, the compensation here is
No,
59.
it's not a calendar year, it's a monthly, so that's why we broke it down by
It's
the
a
month.
monthly?
Yes.
Okay, so,
And we could.
and they're reappointed every year?
Well, yes, I mean, essentially, this is I'm assuming we're gonna get a contract from them, because we're not actually appointing a town accountant, we're retaining an accounting firm to
Right.
provide accounting services. So, because this will be a contractual relationship, not an appointment per se, then we'll do it on an annual basis, so it might be April to April, whatever, and then terminable, let's say, I think we can do with 30 days' notice. So they'll start, as soon as they start, whenever the supervisor arranges for them to start, then that'll be the commencement date, and we'll do month to month until,
Okay.
till if the board decides otherwise.
All right. May I have a motion and a second?
So moved.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
None opposed. We have discussion of the flood mitigation study, and basically, this involves 3 separate governmental agencies. No, actually 4. Pardon me, 4. The town of Rye, the village of Rybrook, the Portchester School District, and the county, and it may also at some point involve the state and the federal government. And Billy, why don't you, this is really your baby, why don't you pick up the discussion and tell the people what it's about?
Okay, very good. Thank you. I appreciate that. First, I want to thank the supervisor for jumping in and supporting this endeavor right away. And that helps. Paul has been instrumental with all of our meetings, and we've had great support from the school district, board members, professional staff. The Village of Rybrook is on board now. The county is obviously on board as well. And where we are is we've agreed to hire an engineer. There's going to be 3 phases for the engineer. Phase 1 and 2 are approximately $95,000 combined. Phase 3 would be after we approve the scope of work, and then we can go forward with permitting and selecting the contractors to do the flood mitigation. So exactly what the supervisor said is exactly where we are right now. And the way that we propose this $95,000 breakdown would be for approximately 50% would be paid by the Westchester County, which is approximately $47,500. The Village of Rybrook would be 25%, which is $23,750. And then the town of Rye and the Portchester School District will each share $11,875, so 12.5% each. And this would get us through phase 1 and phase 2. And then obviously, once we understand that scope of work, then at that point is when we can go to the county with our proposals, go to the state and to the federal government for additional funding. And as everyone knows, this is a project that's been kicked around for far too long, and I'm really committed to making this happen, not only for the school district to alleviate the flooding so we can use the fields, but just through the process here, and I guess we kind of lose sight, but the Rybrook condominiums, when you drive into Old Avon Circle, when you drive down into the back, in that lower level, the water was 10 feet high and ultimately destroyed, domiciles along that entire area. So if we can make that adjustment to alleviate that flooding and help residents of the town of Rye, not only to have, competitive athletic fields, but also help them with their residences as well. That's really where we need to go. Whatever we could do here also, we'll be able to hopefully help our neighbors downstream in the city of Rye. So I'm very hopeful, and I'm looking forward to seeing this project to completion.
Thanks, Bill. I mentioned the other governmental agencies. We're hoping not only to secure county funding, but also in the next round of community development block grant funding that is federal dollars that is now administered by the state, and possibly even getting funds, as you heard earlier in the meeting, from the state of New York for flood mitigation, and we would work through our elected representatives for that. So, thank you, Bill. Reports?
No, I'm sorry, just where, from a IMA standpoint, where should we go now? I mean, are we, we're ready to have our town attorney engage the other attorneys? So we
Yeah,
can
I
create
think
that-
Paul will engage.
Well, the county would take,
With
I
the
think the
county.
county will
County
send
will
out,
take the
they do
lead.
the IMA, and they send it to
Yeah.
all the parties to sign, so
Okay.
we'll wait for the county, and
Well-
someone can ask legislator
right.
Gelfarb.
So what I don't want to do is wait for the county, because that's the reason why we're in the
Right.
position right now.
Um,
So I want to drive the process, Paul.
Right, well, who's actually hiring Dolph? Is that, who's paying him? Is that the county?
The county would,
Okay, so then the county.
probably, oh, you know what, that's a good question, and I think we
Someone's
need to
writing
get-
him a check, and I
we need to
suspect
get
it's
that
gonna be the
answer.
county, yeah.
Well,
So usually
I
the
think-
county takes the lead on it, because they're the coordinating agency, and then they prepare the IMA, because it's us, it's also the Portchester School District.
Right.
It's the Village of Rye Brook.
Well, You've been
as well.
dealing mostly with George Oros, correct?
Correct,
All right,
yeah,
I'll give George a call.
okay.
Thank
And-
you.
And we'll see where, what we do procedurally, and we'll get going on it.
Thank you.
Reports. Madam Assessor, do you have a report for us?
Well, just a verbal report. I'll be brief since I know we're running late. Last Friday, a group of 6 of us assessors on the executive board from the Westchester County chapter of the New York State Assessors Association met with Sandy Galiff about this STAR exemption and the personal income tax credit that they were trying to propose in the budget, which Senator Latimer was speaking about. We were expressing our concerns that the way it was written was that they were going to implement it basically in the middle of an assessment year, which was going to be an administrative nightmare. So we were glad to hear from her that it hadn't passed in the Assembly, and I was glad to hear from Senator Latimer that the Senate also did not approve it. So that was a good thing. The second thing is that our assistant assessment clerk, Paula, is resigning. She accepted a full-time position in Yorktown. So we have a posting for that position. It's paying $15 to $20 an hour, depending on experience. And if anybody knows anybody, please have them get in touch with us. And the third thing is that the seniors are reminded to renew their exemptions as soon as possible. That's the Enhanced STAR and the Age Dole or the Senior Citizen exemption. That deadline is May 1st, which is approaching quickly. And the sooner they get in, the better, because it gets very busy in our office. We get people lined up. And the fourth thing is, in the consideration for the accountant that you were just talking about, I think it's very important that we do have year-to-date, spent, what we've spent, because I know that was something I had asked for quite often, and it was hard to tell where your budget numbers were ending up, because we didn't really know what the totals were that were being spent. So I think that's really important. And that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We'll skip Crawford for now. Finance, do we have any finance report? Dave's not here. Do we, Mr. Tax Receiver? We have one submitted. No additional oral report tonight? Thank you. Hope your report has been submitted. Do you have anything else?
No additional.
No. Superintendent of Highways is not here. We have his written report, which seems to be the same written report we have every month.
Well, more importantly is that we have confirmation from A.G. Williams Painting
Yes, we do.
that they are going to complete the project, the painting project, weather permitting, by Memorial Day, Monday, May, it's not Monday.
Before.
It's before,
Right.
Monday, May 20th. So that's an important timeline.
Yeah, we have specifications that were put out to bid. Paul, do we need anything more than that? I don't know that we have any written contract
No,
with them.
generally, the contractors have a standard contract they use, and they forward to us, and then I review it, and you're authorized to sign it, so,
Can you ask them for a contract?
yeah, I think
Or
Hope
have
already
Hope?
did that.
Hope
Yeah.
you have? Okay, great.
Yeah.
And then we'll review it. We want to make sure that the contract comports with the terms of the specifications.
Right.
Crawford Park, I think, Debbie, did we meet with the Van Loos since the last meeting? I think so.
We did.
Yes,
We
okay.
did.
So the heirs to the Crawford estate, the Van Loos, were down earlier this month, and we went through, a walkthrough with them through Crawford Park, and with Gary Gianfrancesco, the architect, and with George, the caretaker, and went over the prospective plans that we wanted to accomplish with the grant money that we're getting through CDBG, and also possible additional renovations on the second floor that might be necessary, such as eliminating some of those small bathrooms, et cetera. And they were very, very supportive of all the work that we wanted to do, and we're entirely supportive of the concept of making Crawford Mansion into more of a community center, accessible to all of the people of the town of Rye. And they were especially concerned, and it was interesting, and I'd heard this story before, that they are especially concerned with providing opportunities for children. The reason that Edna Crawford gave the mansion to the town was that she would look out the back window from the second floor and see all the children playing on her property. And she loved it. And that is really the major reason that the property was left to the town of Rye, so that the children would have experiences on the land and in the mansion. And that will be our goal going forward.
Good,
That's great.
makes sense.
Right? Does any of the council people have any further comment?
Not for me.
Tommy?
Nope.
Then, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
A second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everybody.